All right. Well, a couple of things here. Pete Buttigieg taking some flack for basically saying that every Trump supporter, he said this before, every Trump supporter is, at the very best, looked away from racism. They've excused it. They've looked away from it. Of course, he's totally wrong. But, you know, when you don't have anything, I guess, of substance to say, that's kind of what you say. Dana Lash actually kind of ripped into him. She says, according to Pete Buttigieg, Democrats who were good enough to pull the lever for the Bill Clinton or Al Gore for Obama suddenly are racist because they didn't vote for the elderly white woman in 2016. Now, what Lash is referring to is all of those Democrats who had voted for Clinton, Gore, and Obama switching and voting for Trump in the last election, because a lot of Democrats did, especially in those states that Hillary Clinton didn't really go to. She continues, Trump didn't just brand a new crop of Republican voters. He won over Democrats in blue areas because he spoke about the issues that affect their day-to-day lives, not about pronouns, bathrooms, and virtue signaling. For Buttigieg to say this, he's really saying people who think differently than I do on the economy, foreign policy, believe that some people are more redeemable than others because of skin color. It's a heinous accusation that betrays the faith that he claims. Ultimately, Buttigieg is himself using race to appeal to a demo with which he's struggling. His term as mayor particularly. By bearing false witness, he hopes to use the actual emotional pain it brings for his benefit. By all means, Mayor, cite me in the scripture for this. So Dana Lash, you know, she's right. I mean, that's, if you're going to run around, and again, this is kind of what's been so interesting about Pete Buttigieg trying to go for the evangelical vote. He's not one, and he's pretending to be one, and I don't know why. I don't know what the motivation is behind that. I guess there's a strategy there. It doesn't appear to be working according to the polling of evangelicals who are Democrats, but certainly not going to work in the general election. But at the same time, you know, whatever, he's doing okay in the polls right now. And I think he's doing okay, less because he's doing great and more because everybody else is doing so bad. And while he's had some missteps, his missteps have been somewhat smaller in comparison to the missteps. His missteps will hurt him in a general election. His missteps won't hurt him in a primary election. Let's put it that way. Whereas Joe Biden and Elizabeth Warren, of course, Kamala Harris is now out. Bernie Sanders is Bernie Sanders. When they do these missteps, it hurts the Democratic base and their loyalty for those people. So as long as Pete Buttigieg doesn't anger the base, I guess he'll be somewhat okay. Now, she's also on to something with him trying to pander to a Democrat that has really not supported him at all. And that would, of course, be the Black American vote. And right now, he doesn't have much support for that. So he's been doing the best that he can to go show people that he can be down with people who are not as pasty and white as him. And today was at 5:30, I think, that they said the press conference, local black leaders in South Bend will be announcing their supports for Pete Buttigieg. Of course, every reporter in town is saying, we're told that this is a way to prove that he has black support in his own community. It's not really the case, though. I mean, I suppose if you look at the elections, you know, because, again, he's the nominee, and there will be a large swath of the population of South Bend who will vote for somebody with a D next to their name, even if they don't like them, simply because they're not an R. But you look at voter turnout in his reelection campaign, it wasn't very strong. It wasn't very strong at all. So there is some real issues there with connecting with the black community in South Bend, which are well documented, and we all know that. Him coming back to town after the police shooting and marching with people who, you know, say that cops and bacon go hand in hand or something like that. No, cops and Klan go hand in hand is what they were saying. And, you know, marching with people who are holding up signs like that isn't a good look. But, you know, he's trying his best to go ahead and get support there. So this will be the latest attempt. He was at church in South Carolina, again, black church, and doing his best to go ahead and drum up that support. But, you know, at the end of the day, you know, here's the thing. He's running around professing to be this man of God and criticizing anybody who supports Donald Trump, because Donald Trump is a Christian, Okay, I don't know that I would call him religious, but he's a Christian. He's done a lot of what the evangelicals have wanted him to do. And when Pete Buttigieg criticizes that and says you've got to actually, look at the Bible, and then he misquotes the Bible a lot, but I digress. Just from his perspective, he's like, I'm a good Christian, and here's what I say. Therefore, this is all good Christian dogma. And then he immediately violates what he preaches. As he's proselytizing his beliefs, he violates those very same beliefs. So when you call 63 million Americans essentially racist, he says anybody who supported this president is at best looking the other way on racism. At best, he said. That's a direct quote, okay? Just so nobody thinks that I'm taking him out of context here. But it's not the first time that he has said it. Pete Buttigieg has said this many times. And it's actually a racist thing to say, because there's a lot of people who supported Donald Trump and continue to support Donald Trump who are not white. And so you're telling, keep in mind, he got a larger percentage of the black and Hispanic vote than previous Republican candidates did. So you're now saying that not only, as Dana Lash pointed out, the Democrats who flipped away from Hillary towards Trump, and a lot of those, I guess, would be because of what happened to Bernie, okay? Some of those would be because of the economy and trade policy. But you're not only saying that the Democrats that have voted Democrat along the line who just decided to flip, you're not only attacking them as not being real Democrats and being racist, but now you're attacking large numbers of Hispanics, large numbers of Asians, large numbers of Middle Eastern, and of course you've got the black vote as well. You're attacking all of them. And when you look at the polling that has come out, I haven't gone over it because everybody else is going over it, and frankly, it was a throwaway topic, but there are multiple polls that have come out just in the past couple of weeks that show that, especially among black men, and this has been a trend, by the way, this is not a fluke. This is something that's been in place for almost a year now. Especially among black men, Trump's popularity is growing. He's got a lot more support, about twice as much support among black men as he had when he ran for election last time. So at this point in time, in a key demographic coming into the election, again, it's polling, it's early, take it with a grain of salt. I'm just saying, at this point in time, the polling seems to suggest that he's winning over black voters. And it seems to suggest that he's winning over some Hispanic voters in some places as well. And when you're Pete Buttigieg and you're out there as a pasty white guy, and you're sitting there and going, yeah, all of you are looking the other way on racism. You're calling them race traitors is what you're doing. It's a very racist thing to say, especially coming from a white guy who comes from a privileged background. But it doesn't, again, whether or not this campaign strategy is going to pan out for him, we'll find out. He doesn't need to win South Carolina. Obviously, if he does well in the other places he's doing well, he's polling well in Iowa and New Hampshire right now. If he does well there, then, that could give him some momentum. But making accusations like that and those broad sweeping things it doesn't do anybody any favors. And it goes literally against everything that he says he stands for. So he's violating his own principles, or at least the principles he is publicly espousing that he has. He's violating all of those, and he's throwing them into the trash, and he's spitting on them simply to try and win over the black vote. But at 5:30 today, he's going to have, local black leaders stand up and say how amazing he is. And there's never been a scandal or a controversy. And I'm sure they'll have a whole bunch of other interesting things to say about Pete Buttigieg today to try and prove to the world, because all the cameras will be there, try and prove to the world that he is not 100% repulsive to the black community. So we'll see if it works. We will. Bye.